So it is Friday, day 2, Friday, June 29th. Probably don't really need to be saying the date every single time, that's okay. Second day of being back from Los Angeles. Second day so far that I've done an hour meditation, almost first thing in the morning. I know that's pretty much what my 6-month commitment is going to be, is doing an hour meditation every single day. And if scheduling's kind of tight, then sitting down for at least 5 or 10 minutes. Basically getting into that heart state and getting us basically re-inviting that same or the similar state of flow that I was experiencing while in Los Angeles and while at Evolving Out Loud. And the second part is getting out of the house and spending as much time out of my room as possible. So that's partially why I'm doing a video here out on the porch instead of in my room. Partially because I think it's easier for me to speak up and kind of say exactly what's on my mind when I don't have other people around me. And in my room there's always that possibility that someone's going to come in and just to talk, which is totally fine. But makes it difficult when I'm trying to do my thing and to do it as authentically as possible. Ideally I'd like to get to the point where I am able to kind of say what's on my mind regardless of who's around. I was definitely a lot more capable of doing that at EOL, because pretty much everyone's going through similar things. Everyone kind of knows what's up. So I know I can draw inspiration from that into my daily life as well. In my, just at home, my interactions with other people, and so on. But generally, I want to stay out of my room as much as possible, unless I absolutely have to be in there. I can already feel a lot of the old habits clawing their way back in, and I want to make sure that that does not happen. Like, being okay with that sort of pressure being there, but not letting it win, not letting fear win over me actually living my life and doing what's best for me. So right now I've kind of decided that the best thing for me to do is to do everything I can to not be in that environment as much as possible. It has nothing to do with my family being there. It's just I think my nervous system is like so, it's wired in such a way that makes it very easy for old habits and negative habits and destructive habits to cultivate very quickly in that environment. And I'm sure there are things that I could do that would make those things not happen, or things I can cultivate in my self-discipline that make me more effective in my room, my old environment. But at the moment, the best thing for me to do is to just not be in that environment and to keep breaking up the myelin, or whatever it's called, of being in that environment, to break the patterns, to break the habits, and to keep breaking the cycle and not let it reinforce itself. Because I'd only spent a week-ish away from my room, and that was a massive, massive help. But I don't think it was enough to completely break apart all the negative habits. And a friend sent me like this fun little interactive video that talked about, I don't remember exactly what all it was, but basically the way I kind of understood it is, when you do something and you get when you do something and a consequence, positive or negative, comes out of it, the more you do it and get that consequence, the more, like, the tighter that connection builds between the action and the reward or punishment. And when I do an action and can structure it in a way where I'm not getting the same consequence, then it breaks that connection and breaks that, like, neurological wiring, basically. So basically I'm learning to break down the old wirings that aren't as effective as they used to be, or aren't as helpful as they used to be, or no longer serve me in the way that I want them to serve me, breaking those down as much as possible, and that's going to take time. It's not going to take just 1 week. It's probably going to take a month, 2 months, 3 months. And I think that's why Kyle Cease was such an advocate of going from committing to just 90 days, just 6 months instead. Because basically committing yourself to that long of time is going to build stronger and better habits and break away things that aren't as helpful anymore. So that is basically what I'm doing, and there's a part of me that is struggling because I feel like my 6-month thing should be such a bigger, more ambitious thing. Oh, that's a big bee. Stay over there. I feel like I should have a more ambitious thing. More ambitious thing to be working on for 6 months, but right now it just feels like the best thing for me to do is just to spend an hour every day meditating. And I've like pretty much completely disregarded my entire morning routine prior to the trip in favor of just meditating an hour. And I think that as I do that, and as I put myself first and take care of my mental and physical needs in that way, I had a thought. I don't know, but it was something like, by doing that, it kind of builds that self-discipline and helps me build that willpower a lot more effectively, just by consistency of that habit. And I think that all the other morning routine type of stuff that I would want, such as like making my bed or making proper food or taking a shower earlier in the day, things like that, I think all of that will follow suit as a result of doing the meditation, because I think the meditation is coincidentally one of the most ambitious things that I could be doing for myself and on a daily basis. And it's already felt like such, going to LA, going to EOL and doing the exercises and stuff like that, I think has shifted my priority in making meditation an actual priority, rather than kind of like this thing like, oh, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. So, yeah, so it's not, and on one side of the coin, not a very big, ambitious thing, but on the flip side, it's one of the most ambitious things that I could be doing. And getting out of the house is also an ambitious thing. Like, I guess I'm saying that all these things are not as ambitious, but if I'm like honest with myself, they're pretty big changes for what I'm used to, what I've been doing before the trip. So that's what I am committing to doing. I just have, well, I don't have to get it down in writing. I know it in my head, in my heart, what is my 6-month commitment, but I want to have it down for myself, that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm committing to on paper. And yeah, I'm definitely glad I came outside on the porch to do the video. I'm already feeling a lot better about just being outside in general, kind of not really being in the sun, but like seeing the light around, because I don't get much light in my room, and at a certain point it gets too hot in my room, so I can't have the light come in. So I think just being out here, being out in the shade, helps out a lot. And just getting out of the house, physically leaving the house, like having to get myself showered and dressed, and going to a physical, differently destination, I think will get me into that similar mindset of being on the streets of Hollywood or wandering around Inglewood and Eagle Rock and Santa Monica. It will just get me into my own body, and rather than in my own head, and then like I'll be able to listen to myself a lot better and trust myself and be able to have conversations with myself, and not the fearful side of my mind. So, my 5 things for the day. It seems like 3 of my maximum 5 of every day is going to be very centered around my self-care practices, my 6-month thing. So, number 1 is doing my hour meditation, an hour of meditation. 2, doing a daily video, or post of some kind and publishing it. 3, so I guess that could be part of my 6-month thing. 3, getting out of the house at minimum, going out on the porch, going for a walk, going out to do work in the garage where I'm not in my room, but ideally leaving the house, going to a different destination to work, and spending as much time as possible outside of my home environment until I get my own place, in which case I will be happy with that. And if I get my own place and I'm falling into old habits again, then having to leave the house, going to the library, going to the community center, finding a co-working space, going for a walk, anything. So those are my 3 kind of repeating things every single day that is going to be on my daily agenda for probably at least a month or something like that, until it becomes a more consistent habit, and then I can slowly pull those away because they are habits and replace them with something new to integrate into my day. And then my non-repeatables for today, which are 4 and 5, are going to be writing down my 6-month commitment, understanding and knowing my level 10 actions that are going to put me at my heart's edge. Trying not to say but where was I going? 6-month commitment, level 10 actions, documenting my journey my journey to Los Angeles and in Los Angeles and EOL, all that. Also going through my notes, kind of picking out like highlights of things that I want to implement in my life, because I have that little Evolve notebook that I want to go through. Understanding basically all of my trip stuff so that I have it all kind of packed away and that I can move on to the next thing. But going through that documenting process is helpful. And yeah. And then number 5, going through photos and video, sorting it, and at least getting most of it kind of compacted together for posting, either on Instagram or Facebook, then posting it, ideally. But at least going through it, just kind of sorting it, picking out the best for later publishing. And yeah, so that's my 5, that's my thoughts for the day. Also, I know my food's done already, so hopefully it doesn't burn, but that's alright. During my meditation, I had this thing come up about kind of hearing, not necessarily conflict happening in conversation, but just kind of having this observation that an experience between 2 people caused me to really tense up and feel anxious. And I was kind of upset at first, and I think this was the first time I had really recognized that something outside of myself had triggered something within me. And since I was in meditation, I think I had at least a little bit better awareness, and I wanted to, while I was in my meditation, give myself the chance to dive in and just kind of ask myself, why was that happening? Why is that relevant for me? And why was it that something happening between 2 other people was causing me to feel this intense like anxiety and stress? It wasn't directed at me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't even like at me or anything like that. But why was I feeling that intensity? So I sat with it for a while and actually like asked myself, like, why do I feel this way? And I kind of realized that when you approach someone with like a hostility kind of mindset, or have this kind of aggressive approach, it can cause people to react a very similar way. They'll react with hostility or aggression or some sort of defensive result. It was, the mentality that I had was, or the imagery that I had was basically like, if you approach someone with a knife pointed at them, how are they going to react? They might pull out their own knife and try and defend themselves or attack back, or they might run away. They might like just flee the scene basically. And when you're trying to get someone to do something, or trying to get someone to understand something, or trying to get your point across, when you approach someone with a knife, they're either going to fight back, or they're going to put up their guard and run away. And that is not very effective. And I realized that the reason it was probably coming up and triggering such feelings within myself was because I think I do that to myself. I have a very hostile or aggressive or negative approached mindset when I am trying to do things, when trying to get myself to do things, and giving myself a hard time when I don't do them. And even if I don't necessarily have language that I'm saying to myself, it's just the feeling that I'm inducing in my own head, my own nervous system, when I'm doing things and not doing things and giving myself a hard time. And I'm learning, especially after some of the awareness of going to LA and doing EOL, was that compassion is a much better approach. And sure, there's times to kind of be a little bit rough, not rough, but like tougher on yourself and to like push yourself to do things. But I think that I've done it so much, I've been so aggressive with myself in my own head, and not getting results, that it's not been the most effective way to do things. There are always good ways to do things, and the good ways are always different based on what we're going through in that moment. And at the moment, I'm recognizing that being negative with myself, being harsh on myself, is not the effective method at the moment. And the most effective thing for me to be doing right now is to be more compassionate with myself. And same could be said for me being compassionate with other people. When I'm communicating with other people, trying to be understanding and empathetic for what they're going through. But most importantly, this moment of realizing the trigger was that it was more about myself than what I am experiencing around me. And that I need to be kinder and more loving and more compassionate with myself and what I'm going through. Because I think it'll put me more at ease, and I think that the things I want to do, the things that I have been pressuring myself to do, will come more naturally, will flow more naturally when I am more compassionate and give myself that space and low pressure to kind of be myself and just let whatever's happening happen. Because I think that basically all the things I want to do are currently not coming about by pushing myself and being harsh on myself and giving myself a hard time. They most often have come about when I kind of like let my guard down, when I loosen up, when I just kind of like shake all the nerves out and just let myself be creative, let myself kind of explore and dabble in whatever's like wanting to come through in that moment. Basically what I'm saying is when I am more compassionate with myself and want, still not able to like articulate this as well as I'd like, and I love that. Basically, by being compassionate, by giving myself space, by giving myself the freedom to explore and not do things perfectly, when I give myself the space to be kind to myself and not need to be perfect, when I give myself the space and patience to do things as they happen, when I give myself the compassion and just be gentle with myself, typically I will probably, a lot of the things I want to get done will get done because I'm more excited, I'm more energized, I'm more in a state of flow, I'm more in my heart. So, long story short, be compassionate, give myself space and freedom, and things will flow together more easily. So, I'm going to go eat, shower, and leave the house so that I can work on my Forest 5, and which is figuring out my 6-month, documenting all my stuff, and then going through pictures and stuff so that I can move on to the next thing.